Hello, this is Brad, or Brad Wild. Today we're going to take our JAR A320 parked here at Ontario, California, Kilo Oscar November Tango, up to Oakland, Kilo Oscar Alpha Kilo. And this was a flight prompted by my buddy Steve, and he flew it a little bit earlier in the week and supplied a flight plan for me. So this is off of Flight Aware. These are the actual waypoints. Here is the abbreviated flight plan. So we've got our SID here, which is Pomona 9, and then our star on the other end. Don't know what it stands for. And then a couple of waypoints in between that really form our transitions. So you can see Gorman here and our good here. So let's take a look at our SID out of Ontario. This is, try to get this to work here. So I'm in Sky Vector. Here are all the charts in one convenient place. So here's our departure, Pomona 9. And flip it around here. So taking off to the west, here is our VOR, Papa Oscar Mike, and then we will fly up. Let's see, where's Gorman? Gorman's right here. And one thing I want to do while I have this up here is to check and see if there are any initial altitudes, and the only one I really see is 7,000 for Pomona. I'm not sure if there's a second page to our, yeah, let's see if there's anything on that second page. Yeah, so we're going to be setting 7,000 on our FCU altitude selector once we get things cranked up in the airplane. Now on the other end, I'm going to go ahead and put this in here so we get a nice straight line. And that takes us up here to Oakland. And we'll take a look at our star. Echo Mike Zulu Oscar Hotel 3, and it is an RNAV. So here is the R good waypoint, which is our transition, and then we will follow it into Oakland. Now Steve would like me to land on runway 30, and we'll do an ILS approach. The weather's not terrible. Let's see, here we go. So the thing I'll want to check is our frequency 108.7 on our FMGC, and then our transition points here, or places where I want to target for capturing the guide slope. So we don't have to worry about that right now, but it's always good just to check ahead and see if there's going to be any surprises. So let's go ahead and jump into the airplane. Now I have my fuel truck pulled up, so I want to put in the correct amount of fuel. So let's go over to fuelplanner.com and we'll select an Airbus 320, and we'll be flying again from Ontario up to Oakland. And I'm interested here in the load sheet. So we can see exactly how much fuel we're going to need here. This is 12,000 pounds. And as you know, the A320 is in kilograms, so we'll need to convert that. So it's just under 6,000 kilograms. So we'll increase that and go ahead and begin our fueling. You can see that I've got the stairs pulled up. In the old Ontario airport, before they had any jetways, everything was done with the stairs. But we're at a remote terminal. The actual new terminals are over here to the south, or to the east I should say. So we're going to use the stairs today and board that way. Alright, looks like we're all fueled up. I can dismiss our fuel truck. And we can climb back in. Now I'm using my own checklist. This is version 14, so again it's been massaged quite a bit over time. So hopefully I'll stick to that as we go. So it's time to get things lit up here for our flight. So we'll make sure these switches are off. We want that on normal. Turn on our ground power. Batteries on. And external power on. And let's turn on some lights. Check our APU. And turn on our APU. APU start on. External power off. And we can disconnect our ground power. And let's get some overhead lights on here. There we go. Pedestal lighting. Let's see, where is that? Here we go. And get those set before we get barked at. And then let's make sure our electrical pump reads fault. Okay, let's get our APU bleed on. Packs off. And check our X bleed here, cross bleed to auto. And we can turn this on. Probe and window heat. Checking. And let's get our ADRUs going. All three of these on to nav, and we wait for a second until we are asked to enter our position. There we go. And we can turn our radios on. And now we're ready to program our FMGC. So we'll start over here with our init and put in our origin here. Ontario up to Oakland. Okay, there we go. And we'll align the IRS. Put in a flight number. This is American Airlines 111. Cost index, I'm going with the median of 45. We'll save our cruise altitude for later. Over to our fuel panel. And let's see, check here. And it fills out, showing our 6,000 kilograms. Now to our flight plan. Starting in Ontario, our departure is going to be, let's see, what does Steve want? 26 right. And here's our Pomona SID. And our transition is Gorman. And we'll insert that. Everything is green. Go back to our MCDU. By the way, the MCDU is kind of like the keyboard and screen, which is connected to the FMCG. I always get that mixed up. Anyway, to the FMS. So, arrival into Oakland will be on 30. And here is our star. And I do not see any waypoints here, but I do see a transition of Romeo Golf Oscar Oscar Delta. So back to our flight plan, and we'll insert that. And so what we noticed about the flight plan that Steve gave us is that our good followed right after that. After Gorman. So we just have to get rid of this discontinuity. So click clear and press that, insert it, and why don't we go and take a look at our screen here. We'll step through it. So put this on plan and zoom in a little bit and step through this. Let's see, go back to the beginning. Alright, you can see in our navigational display our route. Sometimes you can see some squirreliness. This aircraft has been known to do some interesting things with the route, but this looks right on. So let's finish our FMGC. Just put this back to the beginning. Wish there was a speed key for that. Alright, so next we go over to performance, and we simply click left 1, 2, 3, and our transition is flight level 180. This is our thrust reduction. Sometimes it stays the same, sometimes it's just simply based on temperatures and any sort of company policies for noise reduction. And we're going to be using flaps of 2. And we'll use a flex temperature of F44. One last thing I can't forget, and that's to go over and put in our cruise altitude of flight level 320. It's a short flight. Now if we go back and look at our flight plan, you'll see that the altitudes have been put in. So that concludes the programming of our FMGC. Alright, time to batten down the hatches so we can close our doors. And pull away our catering truck and the stairs. And back into the aircraft. So, seatbelts on. And emergency lights armed. So, middle position there. And our landing elevation to auto. And we can perform a couple of fire tests here for our engines. We can set our baro. I'm just going to use standard today. There we go. So I want to turn off my anti-skid because we're going to ask for a tow now. So call the tow. Make sure the parking brakes get turned off. You're going to want to point the tail to the west.
Park brake off.
Wow, that was quite a bump. There we go. And make sure our parking brakes. Yep, he turned it on for me. And we'll say goodbye to our tow. So, fuel pumps on. There's 6 of them. And now we're ready to start the engines. Mode switch to start. And we're going to start with engine 1 today.
Starting engine 1.
And things are spooling up here nicely. We can turn this back to on. And this should stabilize between 19 and 20. Now engine 2.
Starting engine 2.
While we're waiting, we can turn on our transponder. This should go to above. Things are spooling up nicely. Okay, mode switch to normal. And we can turn off our APU. APU bleed can come off. Our electrical pump should now be off. And I'm going to put my range switch to 10, make sure this is on arc. I'm going to add 15 to my V2 speed here so that I can control speed on initial takeoff. And then we want to set our initial altitude to 7,000 feet. Parking brake auto to max. Then we need 2 notches of flaps.
Flaps 1. Flaps 2.
And we'll arm our parking brake.
Spoilers armed.
Turn off this light. And now we are ready to taxi. Again, like all my flights so far, I haven't been using VATSIM or Pilot Edge, so we're going to assume that we're getting our clearances along the way. So I apologize to those of you who expect that.
Park brake off.
Park brake off. A little fuel to the engines. And now a long taxi out to the end of runway 26 right. So I will spare you that journey and meet you on the other end. Alright, here we are at the end of runway 26 right. And a few things we want to double check. So I'll make sure that our transponder is set to TATR, flaps and spoilers set, and we need to make sure our lights are set, so strobe to auto, nose light to takeoff, and then landing lights on, packs off. I get questioned about this, but it is an option in the FCOM, so I'm going to go with it. Just gives me more to do and forget. Alright, I'm just double checking my checklist here. So auto brake, strobes, packs, speed, transponder, and we have been cleared for takeoff. Release my brake. I'm going to begin my clock now. I have one finger on the G key, one on the 4 key, so I can put up my gear and disable my spoilers. Power to flex. I don't know where my first officer was. brake off, and we can begin our climb lever is flashing, so back it up a
Speed
notch
check.
of
Flaps 1.
flaps.
Standard Vero cross check. Passing flight level 029.
Speed begins to climb to 176. We'll go ahead and
Autopilot 1
begin
cross check.
our managed flight. We can start moving up our speed.
Speed check. Flaps 0.
I manage the speed myself just so that that nose doesn't drop so quickly, but we are now ready to just go ahead with the speed limit of 250. We are high enough now where the nose dropping is not going to be a huge issue. So a little rainy, overcast, and we are now at 250. The nose comes up, and we're in the soup. Turn off our bleed. Some people leave that on when the packs are off just for air in the cabin. And we'll see if we level off at 7,000. And we can go ahead and wait for clearance, and we dial in our altitude. Alright, we've been cleared to flight level 320. So engine spool back up. We are now in managed climb, otherwise you would see OP in there, or OP, I forget. And we're still at 250 until 10,000. Not much to look at. Being in the soup. I'm going to ramp up our range a bit here. And we don't need all those airports. Here we are, we're above the first deck. And we're now at 10,000 feet. We can turn off our landing lights. Retract them. And our speed is coming up. Very slow climb until we get to our climb speed. And I'm letting the aircraft manage this. Now we've got a climb rate of, it's like about 3,000 feet a minute. mountains popping up through the clouds. The sounds I'm using are from Blue Sky Simulations. It's a plugin. I don't run a lot of plugins, but I do like the sounds. I do like the clouds. I have real weather, but I never seem to get it to work. So not much to do until flight level 180, when I simply push the baro to standard, but we're pretty much at standard already. And hopefully these clouds will clear up a little bit. So we passed Buck, coming up on Too Bad, Too Bold. Everything is nominal, as they say in NASA, when nothing is blowing up. You'll see this flash on the PFD when we reach flight level 180. So it is now flashing. I'll just go ahead and press this. Come on. Standard. There we go. I guess you need the little fist as opposed to the finger. Alright, so we're 8 minutes out of Ontario. And I'm going to join you when we get closer to our cruise altitude. Well, we've arrived at our cruise altitude. You'll notice our top of descent is just ahead of us. Floundering a little bit here around the flight level 320 mark. But we can turn off our seatbelts, fine. People can walk around the cabin. Our weather has cleared up a bit. Now over the Central Valley of California. I just drove this recently, beginning of July, and it's amazing with the drought conditions how much green there is. But it's mostly like it does here. So next waypoint is actually our transition point. Not sure where our top of descent is going to be. Again, it's a short flight. So it's right after, not right after, but soon after we pass our good waypoint. And of course, we'll hear the first officer warn us. So back to you as we get a little bit closer to that mark. I pulled up X airports so you could see where we are in relationship to the Central Valley of California. So here's 5, which is the main route that gets you up into Sacramento, San Francisco area. I don't know if you can back out any further yet. When we made our drive up there recently, we crossed here on 152 over to the 101, and the 101 drops down through the Salinas Valley, and you get into wine country down here in Paso Robles and San Luis Obispo, which they call slow. Of course, Highway 1, beautiful drive up through Big Sur, Carmel, Monterey. Here's Gilroy, garlic capital of the world. And again, the Central Valley, you can see Fresno here. And then, of course, you've got the Sierra Nevadas and Yosemite and Kings Canyon. So that's just a quick overview of the area. And we're coming up on our top descent, so I just want to check our altitude here. 2,700 feet is what I'm going to dial my altitude down to for a target as we begin our descent. And I want to double check 107 or 108.7. Go ahead and dial that in. Little fine tuning. So you can see our top of descent here, and you can trigger it any time. The airplane will figure out what it needs to do to keep track. So you want the little finger, go ahead and press that. You'll notice 2 little tick marks here, and which sets our speed, and we're on our way down. Throttles are coming back, and you'll see thrust idle here, and it is a managed descent. Otherwise you'd see OP here, and we've just crossed our top descent. Just going to check that frequency. And there it is, 108.7, so we're good there. Back to our flight plan. One of the things you want to watch for is your speed. Sometimes you're asked for some drag, but I was just reading somewhere the other day that you don't want to use your spoilers above flight level 250. I don't know why, but that was the recommendation. But so far we're right on. One of the things I do to check my descent is look at my altitude. So my jaw would need to be at flight level 274. So we'll just kind of watch that. So far I don't see a problem. Again, the aircraft adjusts its rate of descent to hit those marks. This little magenta dot shows you where you are in relationship to the projected I guess profile. check that. Now there is a profile setting here if you want to see your profile. But I just like to watch my waypoints here. So again, it was 27.4 for my job, so I think we're in good shape here. This is a reservoir, actually, it's not a lake. And it's really low. We drove past it, there's not a lot of water left. And it feeds this one here, this one was full. We've got these canals that run along here. So we've got a more aggressive descent here. By schism, we want to be, whoops, sorry about that. We want to be at 15.4. That's why the more aggressive descent. Here we're at 3,300 per minute. The speed's creeping up a little bit. We'll see if we need any spoilers. We would get an indication here, more drag. Check our barrel for Oakland, and we've got winds out of 330 at 16 knots, and a barrel of 29.84. Gonna add some spoilers here. Go.
Spoilers retracted.
Quite a rumble. And we're supposed to be at, what did I say, 15.4, 15.7 now. So we're going to start seeing a flashing here. So we can set our barrel. There we go. And we're going to take a little break and I'll get back to you at 10,000. Alright, we're coming up on 10,000, our circle hash here. So our airspeed is going to drop down to 250. So we can make sure our people get seated and turn on our landing lights. Regulation for below 10,000. Visibility is only 2 miles, 2.5 miles. Let me pull up X airports again. So, here we are, San Jose, South Bay. Give a little more resolution here on our screen, and a nice little chain of waypoints. And here is our circle D, where we deaccelerate and begin our approach phase. Got the weather radar on. And we can go ahead and turn on our ILS, which simply turns on the little ILS bugs, and you'll see them pop into view as we get closer. So as far as our descent goes, we're right on the money here, both speed and altitude. So we'll want to punch that in a second. See the bay here. Go ahead and put this information in. Put in our winds. So our initial approach fix is Wuhan here. Alright, we see our localizer swing into place. Next would be our guide slope. I thought it would be darker when we got closer, but guess not.
Approach phase activated.
Alright, approach phase has automatically been activated. So things will begin to slow down. You can see our speed bug has dropped considerably. If I go back to our flight plan, you can see, where is that? Decel. So we're going to be watching for our guide slope and localizer bugs to get a little bit closer. And now we're at green dot speed, so I can drop a notch of flaps.
Speed check. Flaps 1.
I'm going to go ahead and arm my spoilers.
Spoilers armed.
Set my auto brake to medium. Turn on my brake fan. And I'm going to go ahead and click approach.
Autopilot 2. Cross check.
And our guide slope and localizer have been captured. Alright, we're in the soup now. Put another notch of flaps down.
Speed check. Flaps 2.
And when we're 6 miles out, I'll put the gear down. One thing I didn't do was check my go around. And what do they want here? Not seeing it. 4,000.
2,500.
So I'll crank that up.
Go around. Altitude set. Gear down.
Getting a little nervous. Thought I better put it down. Supposed to after flaps 2 anyway.
Radio altimeter alive. Speed check. Flaps 3. Speed check. Flaps full.
And I'll put our rows on ILS. Go ahead and turn on our nose lights. So everything looks copacetic here. Got an overspeed indication earlier. I don't know why. So we're still 5 miles out.
1,000.
Of course, the altitude is 10 feet for the runway. And there's our runway. Looks like the localizer's a little
500.
off.
Land green checked.
300.
So land green, let's see if it flares.
200.
100 above.
100.
So turn off.
50. 40. 30. 20.
Retard.
Ground. Sound. First green.
Now I turned off the auto
79.
thrust. At 100 feet above because that's the most recent thing I read, but I'm not sure that was the smartest thing to do. So we need to get off the runway here.
Park brake off.
Get our
Spoilers armed. Spoilers disarmed. Flaps
and
3.
get our flaps up.
Flaps 2. Flaps 1. Flaps 0.
So we don't need landing lights. And instead of taxiing to the gate, I'm just gonna leave you all here. A couple of things to note, and that was that final move with the auto thrust. I don't know whether or not I should have killed it. Normally I get a retard from the first officer if I leave it on. So it's kind of curious what happened if I clicked on it. Again, it's something that I read in some documentation, but I don't know if I like it. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for joining me. Send your questions. Until next time.